Thank you so much, Venus Warriors, for joining us again today. I have the massive pleasure of bringing on a woman here who I've met, my gosh, maybe now a month? And we are in, right? We are in now a group coaching together for something that we are launching for our businesses. But we connected because of our stories. And the reason why I wanted her to come onto this show is because she has this amazing story. And hopefully, and I know it will resonate with one of you. And so that you know that you are able to go after whatever it is you want in your life and not think of these things that are holding you back. So I will stop talking. But today I have Tanya on the show. Thank you so much, Tanya.
Thank you, Liz.
So, all right, tell me this. What are you doing? Let's start from now. Like, what are you doing right now to help people? Let's just start there.
Okay, so I launched a podcast a week ago called the Dreamboard Social Club Podcast, and we are using this platform to inspire people to break free of what we call living life on autopilot, living life by default, living life just without intention. And we're doing this through a tools called a dream board, which is visualization of your dream life. And by putting the dreams on paper, you will now know what to focus on, and then you'll make actionable steps, which is the goal setting. And the studies have shown, and I've said this in my podcast, that if you actually put in one other tool, which is accountability, which is the platform that we are providing through the Dreamboard Social Club podcast, that you are most successful at achieving those goals and getting closer to your dream life.
Nice. Okay. So you probably weren't like 12 and said, I'm going to launch this podcast.
Absolutely not. I wasn't even dreamboarding 12 years ago at 12.
Yeah, right. Agreed. Yeah. Same. So before we get there, so tell me then, what made you feel like, okay, I want to do this. Like, I want to make this podcast and I'm just going to go with it. What caused that?
Okay. Well, so I think that most people are inspired by their own stories, or they're inspired by other people's stories. In 2009, I lived a pretty happy life. I had my second baby, and that was a struggle. That was an IVF, struggled with that for 4 years, but I felt like I accomplished something, and I went back to work. I was breastfeeding, I was making it all happen. I was training for a marathon, and it was after my last long run, I noticed that I had a very tender cut on my elbow, and I kind of ignored it for a couple of days because I am in healthcare, and I just thought, a little antibiotic topical ointment will help it.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't go away. And I started to get those ominous flu-like symptoms. And I saw my internist, and he put me on oral antibiotics and stayed on that for 24 hours. And usually, within 24 hours if your antibiotic is working, and it wasn't. So I went back, and clearly we decided that I needed to be admitted for IV antibiotics because we would market and it was getting big. And then obviously with my fever-like symptoms, we thought it would be some type of bacteremia. So I got admitted, and it wasn't until 2 days after that I got a dreaded phone call on a Saturday morning, the day that I was actually supposed to be working in this hospital, and I was sick as an inpatient. And he said, indeed, you do not have. My cultures came back, and it was a different type of bacteria that they were treating for me, common known as MRSA. That's what they were treating me with. And I actually had what's called necrotizing fasciitis, and that needs to be treated with different antibiotics. And it's a very aggressive infection. So I emergently needed to go to the operating room that morning, which again, it was really surreal because I was actually supposed to be working that day. So I was the patient that day, and that was the start of one of my 6 surgeries to what they call debride the infected soft tissue that the bacteria eats, which is the flesh-eating bacteria. And they debrided it to make sure, well, obviously they got all the infected tissue, and so it wouldn't spread anymore, not get into my joints or lose my extremity, my arm, or lose your life. But so from that point on, in 2009, when I suffered this, I always remember, being in the hospital and just feeling like I wanted to have that like normal life, that life that I would complain about sometimes, of your usual day-to-day complaints. And I just remembered like I would never complain about that again. And so from that point, so that was 2009, I thankfully didn't lose my arm. I do have a prominent scar that reminds me every day.
Mhm.
And I'm guilty of sometimes getting back into that default mode, that autopilot mode. And I just don't want to have a life-threatening experience again to remind me of that. So it reminds me of your website when it talks about like not being settled. I embrace my ambitious gene that I have, and I'm not talking about like materialistic things. I have that desire that I want to have more, and meaning I want to be an exceptional wife. I want to be an exceptional mother. I want to be an exceptional employee. And now I want to be an exceptional boss to myself. And I, I just, I got involved with a network marketing company, and I thought that I just through this company, I was inspired by other people's stories.
Mhm.
And within this network marketing, which I was a completely uncomfortable zone, I started diving deep into personal development. And I met a lot of people. So through those people that I met, I was inspired through their stories. So it was, again, you're either inspired by yourself and other people's stories, and then you kind of used a combination of both to feel like, I can use my story and other people's to serve, this mission of mine of trying to I'm calling you have a Venus, a Venus women's movement, and I'm calling mine a conscious dreaming movement,
Mhm.
to make people really think about being intentional about their day, so they don't live that life of I should have or would have, no regrets, like I would have if something did happen to me, if it was a life threatening,
Mhm.
situation that I had. Does that
Right.
make sense?
It, yeah, we never, and I'm not saying everyone, but a lot of us, before we've done a lot of work on ourselves, right? Like
Sure.
we learn about these
Mhm.
things and little by little, right? But the masses usually don't have this type of awareness, right?
Yes.
Unless something really bad happens.
And why is that? And that's what I was saying, is I don't want that situation again, to be able to, because it's human nature to be able to go to what's easy. Everybody wants to use their primitive brain, right? It's just the easiest thing to do for immediate gratification and not have to work hard. But I really want to be intentional about my day, and to really, be an example of 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 what is possible, and be able, to show my kids that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's that's one thing that we push a lot in our house, is that we the kids know it. I mean,
Hmm.
we don't say I can't.
Yes.
And mine are 8 and 6, and they know. Like one day, I remember, and it was something that we really could not do. I forget what it was. Oh, I know. My daughter could not attend a birthday party because it was my son's friend's party, and it was at
Yes.
a place that was a pool, and they only could have certain amount of people.
Hmm.
And I'm like, Sonia, you cannot go to this. And she's like, Mommy, we don't say I can't. I'm like, okay,
That's awesome.
you're
Yes. You're
right.
right. You're right. You can't say that. Yes.
Right. So, and you're right. The mind. You're absolutely right. It's the reptilian brain, the norm, the comfort. That's where it's easy, right?
Easy
We're
to go.
trying
It's
to be
easy to go
efficient
back
ourselves.
into that default mode. It's easy just to live by the circumstances of the day.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So so then you said you were in healthcare.
Yes. So my full time, my 9 to 5 is I am a nurse anesthetist,
Nice.
and I do anesthesia.
I have I have a very good friend of mine in Ohio. She's probably listening. That she also does the same, and she's taught
Oh,
me
yes.
a lot. Yeah.
Yes. My husband is a nurse anesthetist too, and he's from Cincinnati.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
So Okay. So then do you feel that at any point, within your career, did
Sure.
you see this type of idea, like, this dreaming consciously type of thing? Did you ever have any inkling about like how obviously you want to help people? You would never have gotten into that business, correct? Of
Correct.
nursing.
Yes. No, so I think the whole thing when I keep saying is that I feel like I'm made for more, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
whole evolution of what ends up happening. So I started out as a nurse, and I mean, to be honest with you, it didn't feel fulfilling to me, which is why I decided to go back and do advanced practice nursing. And I've been doing that now for 19 years, and I love what I do. But there's also, because I'm an advanced practice nurse, I'm not, a physician, and I'm not a nurse. You never really know like where you fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those. It's this constant like, you know, fire that's lit to keep going for more. And which is why I did the network marketing for a while. I mean, I'm still doing it, but I this whole notion of, because I already have an advanced practice nurse, and I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I have 3 kids and a beautiful house, like I'm done. And that's not it. Like I don't feel like I'm done, so I've always wanted to keep going. And that's, so what I'm saying is we can live intentionally. When you live intentionally, it's like this whole evolution. You'll find what's next. You'll find what your next angle is, which is why I found podcasting. I found network marketing because I felt like I wanted to find something else. And through that, all these women's stories that really inspired me. Like I thought, I can do that, and what, they're, I wanted what I have to be able to contribute to other people from what I was getting from other people.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to me back in 2009 was just a source of a reminder that, I look at my scars and every day that something can happen. That's just life struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use that to define you, or you can use that to empower you. And that's how I feel. That's what I feel like I'm doing. I mean, another colleague of mine at work, she found out that I was doing podcasting, and it's one of those things where, like I said, like I feel shamed. I'm embarrassed of my scars. I feel almost a little embarrassed that I keep wanting more and keep going after things, from certain people, because everybody's judging, and it's really hard to stay strong when there's just so much noise out there in the world, because you almost feel like you shouldn't want more. And I remember a colleague saying to me on this past week, she was asking me about my podcasting, and I'm also training for a marathon right now. She said, "You do too much." And, I could take that and really question myself and feel like maybe by doing all this, I am taking away from my family. I'm taking away from, my obligations of what I have now. But I see it as a way of becoming a better version of myself, because those thoughts that go in your brain, like these negative thoughts that keep coming up, like maybe I shouldn't be doing this, or you're not good enough, or you don't know how to public speak. Those are the obstacles that when you overcome, that's what makes you a better version. And that's how you can use this to really empower yourself to be able to empower others. And that's how I see it. So no, I didn't, that was a very long answer to your question, but no, of course I didn't see podcasting. I mean, podcasting wasn't even big. I started, the reason why I started podcasting was because I was looking for those stories, those inspirational stories for my self-development. And that's how I found this platform. And I thought, in this platform, like, why not? So yes, like I do consider myself, like, I wear multiple hats like you do too. And I proudly wear them, and I'd like to keep, so I'm using this platform to be able to have a further reach, to show people that we can be an example of what I consider myself, an everyday person, but with a story, with a message that is very relatable, and, to not have to have a life-threatening situation that's gonna make you go, oh, I should have done this, or I should have done that.
Yeah. And a few things that you said. So one is what one of my mentors told me a long time ago. And he said, people judge.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter who it is, what the situation, circumstance, everyone judges. So go ahead and do what you want anyways.
Yes.
Right. And two is the, you know, those negative thoughts and all of those things. This is why, and I'm sure you've learned this now, is that why they always ask, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with?
Absolutely.
Right. I mean, it's because of those things, right? Just because it's unfortunate that some people, everyone has a perception, right? Your life, my life, our lives are our perception. And it's, people don't know what they don't know. And so your colleague sees this and either is like, wow, literally probably is in awe, right? Like, you know, it may come out as they say, you do too much, but maybe she's secretly saying, I wish I could do that.
And I don't try to have this message of wanting to, empower people to purposefully dream. I don't do this in a sense of trying to make them feel bad. It's more in the sense that I feel like every person has a story, has a voice, has an influence, and it's to be able to find exactly what that is, to, maybe light it or relight it, that passion. And that's exactly what I feel very strongly about doing. And why not? Like I said, like podcasting was not on my dream board. It does not come natural. And again, this evolution of yourself, because you're trying new things, you're learning new things, and you'll see what works and what doesn't work. And if anything, I really think I'm on the right path, because the reason why I'm doing this is for personal development, to be that better version of myself. And by being able to do that, I'm able to be that better mom, that better wife, the better podcaster one day.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that, people don't realize that the impact that they have on the world in general, right?
Everyone. No, they don't.
And so someone wanting to be the best version of themselves is actually admirable, because it's not just their lives they're affecting. They're affecting their children, their spouses, their family, their colleagues, all these people, right? In a bigger, better way.
Exactly. Yes. I think it's a responsibility, and it doesn't mean that you want to have like a legacy. I do. I want a legacy of taking responsibility of what I have, being able to use. I'm really learning right now the power of your own brain, because what ends up happening is we're talking about like the negative, who you hang out with, and all the negative chatter. You have to get yourself into the right mindset that you're never going to be able to control other people's opinions of yourself, and if you are able to really control your mind and your thoughts, then you are able to really live on a bigger platform, because that way it doesn't become so much as right or wrong, or she said this to hurt me. It's because, one, they probably just don't know better or take the time, or they're just internalizing their own discomfort, and projecting it onto you. So it shouldn't have to feel like I have to take it away from me, or take any negative emotions from that. It's all emotions, and we can control it.
Right. Yeah. It's all, you can control your reaction to anything.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The thing is that we cannot take responsibility for someone else's actions.
Yes.
Right.
No, I agree. I've been doing the self-coaching model. Do you know do you listen to the Life Coach School podcast?
Yes.
I love that podcast. And I'm applying that model every day, which my thought is, and I've asked Brooke, I said, I think this is a way that, because people, this whole woo of dreaming, like, and a dream doesn't have to be, like, oh, I want to be rich and famous or anything like that. Or, like, I use dreams in a way of just stretching what I already have, because I think it's a way of one, it becomes realistic, and two, you really become mindful of what you're grateful for now. Like, for instance, like my dream would be, I want to have a top downloaded podcast. When I already have a podcast, but what that does is it puts into your mind of how you can make it actionable. So if you use the result as top downloaded podcasts, you can actually work back to having just a podcast, because you figure out what are your actual feeling about that result. And my feelings would be pride, and my pride would be, how does that come from? That comes from your thoughts, and your thoughts are, I really worked hard, I was consistent, I put out great material, I was able to serve the world with this great content. And then that obviously, that becomes your action. So it's an amazing thing if you actually use a model correctly, and how you're able to control, again, your mind, your thoughts, and then your results, which would be anything in your life.
Right. And that's a great way to put it. I also put it when I'm coaching my clients, I put it in the term of like, you have to be the person you want to be.
You have to believe it. You absolutely have to believe it.
Right.
Those are your thoughts. Absolutely, Liz. Those are your thoughts.
Yep. And you're right. So it's like starting with the end in mind.
Yes.
So what are the thoughts? Who do you have to be that person, to have that? And you're right.
100% have to believe it. Yes.
Exactly.
It's fascinating.
Cool.
Fascinating. Yes.
Yeah.
That's so woo. I mean, a little bit of woo, but not so woo.
And it's so funny. So I had one of my very first coaches, she was actually my fitness coach. So after my massive weight loss journey, I competed in fitness competitions. And I searched out this amazing woman. Thank God she was in Massachusetts, because I don't know how I would have done it if she wasn't there. I was very close. And we actually were at an event together, and she spoke, and she's so funny, because she's like, Liz, I don't believe in this woo-woo stuff. I'm like, well, do you want me to tell you that a lot of stuff you said is woo-woo? Like,
yes, I know.
It's so funny. It's just a perception, right?
Yes.
So,
well, I love how you brought up, you really do have to think about like how you're going to be feeling and believing it. Because, for instance, like I do a lot of marathons, and the whole process is not fun, and you can talk yourself out of it, for especially the long runs. But I always go to how I'm going to feel when I cross the finish line. And that's what ends up creating the actions, and that's just, it's very powerful.
I probably should say that more often when I want to work out.
Yes. How are you going to feel after?
It's true. I know. And it's, you're absolutely right. And and the times that I say that, because you do, I do feel amazing after, right?
Yes.
Times when it's not a struggle, right? It's not a struggle to do it, I guess.
No. Yes. Yeah. Or the struggle's worth it,
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Nothing is easy if you want it that bad. And if you don't want, and if it's not that hard, it's not big enough. Your dream's not big enough.
Agreed. 100%. And you know what? And I've seen, so here's a question then. Here's a not opinion, maybe from what you've seen in all of your experiences, because I've seen certain things. So what do you think about, starting with someone who, like you said, they're not dreaming big enough? What do you think about how they start dreaming? Like, have you ever encountered someone that completely doesn't dream big at all? Like, can you just give them no, you have to dream bigger? Like, have you seen that interaction yet?
Yeah, my husband is 100% like that.
Okay, here we go.
He's what I call is content, and that's what I think the issue is. And again, like a big dream doesn't have to be so. It has to be realistic, But like, for instance, our house, we had a house, 5 years ago. And I just remember my husband saying, I'd be like, oh, I love this basement, with my friends. And he'd be like, we're never going to have that. We're never going to have that, Or I'd be like, oh, I just love that backyard. I'd be like, we're never going to have that. We're never going to have that. And then I just remember like one day I looked up and I was just like, you know what? You can't tell me that I'm never going to have that. It doesn't mean that I'm saying it's now or I want to put us into like a financial burden, but to be able to place your own opinions on something of myself as silly as like a house, you know? I mean, it's, you know, but to say I'm never going to have it, I call him Archie Bunker. I'm like, just, you know, stop imposing that mentality on me of what you think, you know, because there are ways of doing something, you know, of stretching it to make it realistic. And it ended up happening because, you know, we did make some sacrifices, but it ended up happening. But I don't like it when somebody tells me it's not going to happen. So for those people who don't have dreams like that, I think it's kind of sad. I mean, the more I achieve, the more it serves as an example to myself that it's possible, and just to have faith in something. I mean, that's like, how did you know 10 years ago that you're going to be podcasting, Liz? How did you know your oldest is 8? How did you know that you were going to have kids? You didn't know. You just it starts with a dream. It started with something, you know? And again, it doesn't want to get to the point like my arm where, you know, you have to have a near-death experience to be able to be like that. There are studies to show if you go to the nursing home, those people are saying that they wish of, I should have, I could have, you know, and if most people, I don't think that they are okay with that, then that's great, you know, fine, live your life. But I think, you know, it behooves you to be inspired by somebody who can tell you that, you know, you can do something more.
Yeah. And even, you know, and I had to learn this because of like helping so many women, is that I had to understand that, you know what, some people actually like their job. And I was like, oh, well, I don't like my job. Like, I didn't like my job. But, you know, it was a wake up call where, you know, Liz, some people actually are happy that was what they wanted to do. Right.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so you're right. Like when we say, you know, a dream or a goal or whatever, it can be as big as you want it to be.
Yes.
And you're right, where not everyone has to have the same goal, the same dream, right?
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
And that's something where just because, you know, here's a perfect example. One of the women that I was coaching, you know, I was like, okay, what, you know, we were going through some things and she learned about some food things and suppressing, you know, sadness, whatever. Right. And I'm like, tell me what you would like, wake up tomorrow and you wake up and it is everything you want it to be. What would you want? And she told me, she said, I would love to have a bookstore with a cafe. And I would love to be blogging about helping other women that have celiac disease.
Wow. Yeah. There you go. You just lit your fire right there. You know,
right? I mean, that's amazing. Is that difficult? No. Yeah. Would you maybe uncomfortable in the beginning? Right. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean she said, I want a 20-story mansion.
Yeah.
But, you know?
Exactly. No, I know. And Liz, you know, what's really interesting is that, so I'm in this self-coaching scholars course. So it's a group coaching, and we were tackling time management this month. And one of the first activities that we had to do was to write down everything you did yesterday, everything you did, your whole 24. And then the next activity was to write down your 24 of your last day. You know, it's your last day. And that was really eye-opening to me, because how many things do I still do that, you know, that's not how I want to live my last day. Again, it's not like, oh, my last 24 is like I'm living on a yacht somewhere. That wasn't it at all. It was more like I would have 15 minutes with I'd call my mother, you know, or I'd have an hour of a date night with my husband. You know, little micro moments of the day of doing something intentionally was honestly my highlight of like my last 24 to live. So they're not like these crazy big dreams. It's more of just feeling fulfilled. And I did actually have on there professionally, I did have like a 6-hour, like I would be doing this to like content creation for my work. So it included every little thing of what is important to you for your dream life, you know? And again, it's not like eating bonbons and drinking champagne all day. It certainly wasn't it. So, you know, it's very doable. It's very doable to have a very dreamy life.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Wherever you feel fulfilled is really what it is.
Yeah. What's your last 24? Come on, Liz, tell us.
Oh my God, you're putting me on the spot. You're asking me? Well,
sorry, I flipped it. Oh wait, hold on. I'm getting one interview here.
save that for the other interview.
Yeah.
No, but that's a great exercise. This is the thing. Like when I tell my clients is that as long as I can make you aware for like 2 seconds of something that may be, affecting you in your life, you're now aware of it.
Yes.
Right.
Conscious. It's conscious dreaming. Join my movement too. Yes. No. Seriously, it's being aware. And that's the whole thing at autopilot is you're just sort of, there are some things that you have to do on autopilot, right? You don't always intentionally want to know how to brush your teeth or, but but you definitely want to be aware of like living, right? That's
absolutely. So is there anything that I didn't cover that you wanted to stress possibly with your platform today being interviewed?
Let me think. I did write down some notes because I didn't want to, miss out on this opportunity to share. And I think you did a really good job, like leading the question. Oh, you know what I didn't want to say? I love your website so much, and I love that quote. Like, if anybody that knows me, I'm really big into quotes. That's just maybe because I can't articulate, when I'm trying to say so much, or it becomes that much more powerful when it comes from a person of like much influence. And I love your quote by Henry David Thoreau of live the life you've dreamed, and you can, and I will,
right.
And so I really admire this platform, this mission of your podcast, so I'm super thrilled that my story hopefully can serve as a contribution to that, as an example to the contribution that you want to be able to provide.
Absolutely. I know it will. That's why you're here.
That's why I know. And I enjoy this mentorship program with you, and I can't wait to learn more, from you. But
thank you. It's true. Same. Likewise.
I don't think that people really think of themselves as a Venus warrior, and like I said, like, I actually, when you were talking about that, and I was like, maybe I am, but I do feel like the everyday person. So the everyday person doesn't need to have a story like mine, to be that, to be able to feel empowered. But I think that you and I are just trying to serve as an example to be able to empower others to feel like they can empower other people, like what you are doing.
100%. Exactly. Exactly. That and your mission of the conscious dreaming is part of this whole thing, right? It's like I'll help the women who it's like they're really, they get to a point in their life where they've worked so hard, they're accomplished, right? They've gotten the degrees and the kids and the house and all the stuff. And then they just kind of wake up and they're like, wow, this is what it is. Like, right. And they just don't feel fulfilled. And then in comes you with the conscious part. Like this is the whole, right. It's a full circle.
No, our stories really connect because, even on your website too, you had that word settle, and that's exactly what you don't want, and again, it's like you brought it back to your profession. Some people do like their job, and I do like my job. I do. I truly enjoy giving anesthesia, but it's like it's the not so freedom of your schedule and the not so freedom, or a little bit of you get demoralized with the politics of like the work structure, and then it ends up becoming, not 100% your passion. So it's all about being able to find your balance that's going to suit you to, be able to give from you. I don't know if that makes sense or not,
It does.
like, so some people might like the job. It'd be nice to be able to have your job still be able as a source of a passion of yours,
Yep.
But
exactly. So how can people find you then?
Well, okay. So I am on Instagram. My own handle is Tanya Gatt so at Tanya Gatt. And then our podcast is at Dreamboard SC. And then on that Instagram, there is a link to our website, our webpage.
Awesome. I'll also put,
and we are live too on our podcast. So yeah, I love that our podcasts connect with the same. So.
Absolutely. And the beauty is that whenever people think that, let's say someone was thinking about, I really am really good at teaching people how to garden, let's just say, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they may think, oh, but there's so many people that do that already. Well, there's not so many of you doing that already, right?
No.
Everyone has a different view. Everyone has a different perception of stuff, right? So why not? Someone's going to resonate with you as opposed to whoever the other person is, right?
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is actually, I forgot, I did want to talk about that. This whole dream boarding thing that I have, we talk about this concept of dreaming from a place of abundance. And so what you're talking about is scarcity. And that's where a lot of people have an issue with dreaming, because and something, like you said, it doesn't have to be a big dream. It's just like a garden, right? And so, although gardens are really hard, but
I am not a good gardener, I'm telling you right now.
But it's you feel like you can't do that because somebody already has that. But I see it as a way, as what you were saying, is that but nobody has it like how you're going to do it, or nobody has it like how what you can offer. So you have to have an abundant mindset. And I think that's really important. I'm so glad all of a sudden, like ding, 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 that brought that up, because that is a concept that I'm working on, and I think that's super important to be able to do that,
Yeah, it's definitely a different mindset than what the societal norms, right?
Yes,
have taught us. Yeah. And that's why we're out there spreading it.
That's why we're out there. This is wonderful. Thank you so much, Liz. That was great.
This was awesome. Thank you so much. I will put all of your information in our show notes, and I'll link them so everyone listening, you can see here. Oh my gosh, you can find all the information there.
Yeah.
And you can definitely share this podcast, share it with any woman that you feel as well could probably hear this message.
Happy to. Thank you, Liz. Thanks, everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you.